Yo, what's up everybody? So welcome to another episode of the SMLJ review. With today's episode, we'll be doing a couple of mic comparison as well as some FAQs. So people have been asking me, what if you use an XLR mic, connected it to an XLR to 3.5 cable? Does that actually work? Will it affect the audio quality? How does it gonna sound like? Earlier, I think I tried with some form of experiment, but it's not really fruitful. So today we'll go on to understand whether this will work or not. But to be honest, we have different mic setup right here. And at the end of the day, right, it really drills down to your needs and your preference over the microphone. It's not really up to, like, say, the industrial needs or industrial standards. I mean, screw it. You don't really have to follow it. All that is necessary is actually what your setup requires, how much of the space it is, your budget, and yeah, what kind of production do you want to get out of it. So with that said, today we will do a couple of comparisons. They might not be the fair comparison here because although most of the cases, people will not actually go with the audio interface with such as this. Most of the cases you will have a USB mic plugged directly in your computer, and there goes your source, right? You run off OBS and whatnot, that's your stream. It functions really simple, so you don't really need an audio interface. Unless you want to go a level up in terms of audio quality, then perhaps you will want to invest a little bit more into an audio interface. My contestant for today is the USB microphone, the Samson Gtrack Pro, the Rode NTG4 Plus, and the Rode Podmic, all plugged into the same source, which is here on the Rodecaster Pro. There'll be two sources of channels right here. One is recording directly on board this thing. Second is directly to my camera, which is what you're hearing now. So I'll be switching between both sources to understand which one will actually be more optimum when it comes to audio quality check. So you might want to take, like, say, you wanted to go extra step into extracting the audio out from this thing, totally forgo any of the audio on the camera onboard recording. That might be a better way to do it. But if you don't mind a little bit more of a noise, background noise, I think the audio that recorded directly on the camera through my cable here, it does sound quite good, apart from that hissing background noise. But if you actually insert in background music and whatnot, it actually camouflage off the noise quite a bit there. It drills down to the point whether you want convenience over quality or whatever you wanted, right? Then without further ado, we'll be going into experimenting between these three mics. I'll be switching around different mics altogether. So what you're hearing now is actually from the Rode Podmic. It sounded really nice. Personally, I like it the best because there's this thing called the proximity effect, in which the other three mics cannot really do it. What do I mean by that? When you actually go close to the mic, like a radio DJ right on close, I think I love this sound so much. It really gives you the depth of your voice and gives you a lot more concentration to it. Yeah, but usually I don't think people will actually speak to it like that most of the cases unless you have things to stress on. So yeah, I love this mic so much because you can actually play with it. Among all the XLR mics out there, this is one of the cheaper end and is one of the entry level kind of microphone. Of course, if we talk about industrial standards, there'll be like two choices you more or less will get it. One is the Electro Voice RE20 and of course the Shure SM7B. But with that said, I think the Rode Podmic does a very good job at a price point of 99 USD. Is a grab. Yeah, but with that said, right, I think I will do a comparison between this and the... Now you're listening to the Samson Gtrack Pro. Okay, I need to up the volume a little bit. So there we go on the Samson Gtrack Pro. This is a USB mic. It's a little bit weird comparison here because most of the cases you'll be plugging the USB directly into the audio source. But in my case here, because I got no way to extract the audio out from the microphone to my Rodecaster Pro, so I have to jack in through this 3.5 to 3.5 on this part. So what it does is it actually outputs the audio from the Samson Gtrack Pro via the headphone output. So what you're hearing now is exactly what you hear in the headphone. It should be pretty similar to the audio output from the USB, unless there's some hidden technology which I am unaware of. So yeah, most of the cases for streamers and whatnot, right? This is about the distance where you want to get streaming kind of audio quality. So for USB microphone, they usually have a couple of options for you. I am on cardioid mode right now. You can actually switch between the figure of 8 cardioid and the omnidirections mode. So what it do is that basically cardioid mode records sound from the frontier, directional only, whereas you kind of isolate off the sound from the back. So now I'm about to switch to figure of 8. You can hear the difference immediately. In the optimum situation where figure 8 is being used is only in a one-to-one interview. So you have a person sitting right across you and you want to do an interview session using this microphone, it does perfect job for it. So you isolate off anything from the side and only captures voice from the front as well as the back. So you can hear now I'm actually twisting around the microphone a little bit, right? I'm not sure you can actually feel the difference from this thing. Right, so at the side, when now at the side, right, you basically cuts off the noise, cuts off the audio level quite a bit, so it kind of get muffled, that kind of thing. Whereas we go back to cardioid mode, right? So now this is actually a cardioid mode. How does it sound on the back? So it basically cuts off the audio quite drastically right from there. So what about the last option, the omnidirection? Omnidirection basically means it captures audio from everywhere. So you can talk anywhere in the microphone, you can still capture it quite nicely on this thing. So how does it going to be used? Omnidirections is being used ideally in situations such as you have a lot of people talking and you kind of want to capture the noise of everyone's talking, everyone's sitting around each other and chatting around, or you have a instrumental band and this mic is sit directly in the middle of the jamming session. This will work perfectly great. But in most of the cases, I think you guys will be using this for streaming, so we'll be switching back to a cardioid mode. Now, this is my recommended microphone for a USB mic over the Blue Yeti. Reason being, this is one of the microphones out there that has a 1/4 inch jack input on this. So what does that mean? Basically, if you are playing instruments and you still want to have singing, you want to have voiceover or whatsoever, you can jack in right here. So I don't see these options out there in any other USB microphones. It's a great selling point. And on top of that, it looks really nice. It's really heavy, it feels meaty, and it builds like a tank. And I really mean it, because if you throw this at someone, I'm pretty sure that fella will go concussed quite 100%. But just compared to the Blue Yeti, I got nothing against it. Nice design and whatnot, but it's just too, soft in terms of colors. So yeah, I do own a Blue Snowball, which I just sold it off, but in terms of audio quality wise, I think this does a marvelous job at it. So now with that said, right, I'll be switching to the Rode Podmic again, just for your reference, how does it sound like? So right now I'm actually at the Rode Podmic. So about the same distance as you can see from here. I don't exactly know which one is your preference. I do think both of the microphone does excellent job at it. But personally, when you actually shove this into the computer, oh dear, the plane. Excuse the plane, sorry about it. Yeah, but when you actually try to listen to this on computer directly with the Rode Podmic, it gets a little bit too sensitive. So what my interface does here is actually reduces background noise and your floor noise, everything on this board. So like I said again, it might not be a very fair comparison. However, that being said, right, if you actually do have a bit of a investment made into buying and getting an interface, it will do perfect job at this. So usually, how is the NTG4 Plus going to be used? Most of the time it's going to be used in the field work, and it's going to be pointed single directional to the source of audio, and it's going to be quite a distance away from it. Because the mic itself is extremely sensitive, it kind of picks up all the super, micro sound and whatnot. So now we'll switch in 3, 2, 1. Now we actually switch to the Rode NTG4 Plus. Wow, I can hear the reverb of this thing. Horrible. It's not really ideal for using for just kind of like a podcast session. It definitely does sound nice, but it's like capturing even my aircon sound. I can hear it. Not an ideal mic to be used for this one-to-one kind of thing or podcast. I do see quite a number of people actually holding this NTG4 Plus as a dynamic mic to do interviews and whatnot, but it really doesn't work that way, because this is actually a super cardioid mic. It's a shotgun mic and it's meant to be capturing things super far away from it. And what do I mean by that? So you actually can hear the sound from there. It's pretty clearly. But I still enjoy this mic quite a bit, so most of my video jobs out there when I'm doing on the field and whatnot, the USB microphone and the Rode Podmic will definitely not do the job for this. Definitely had to go with the NTG4 Plus because that's a shotgun mic. You can mount it basically on a boom arm, you can mount it on the blimp or whatsoever. Not an ideal situation to be using in indoor, especially in an enclosed environment like this. Right, so how does it compare to the Rode Podmic again? So now we are actually back to Rode Podmic, right? So NTG4 Plus, Rode Podmic, and now we'll be switching to, this is the Samson Gtrack Pro. So yeah, we're switching around a few different choices now. So the Samson Gtrack Pro, right on this one, how does it sound? Mic test, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mic test, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mic test, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now for the last test, we actually would like to try around with this thing here. So the earlier question I received was that, what if you plug an XLR mic into an XLR to 3.5 output? So this is not an ideal cable, but because my cable is not long enough, so you kind of have this extension here. Still is decent quality stuff. So ladies and gentlemen, we're back onto the Rode Podmic again. This is still my personal preference over the rest of the choices out there. But like I said, I mean, it really ups to your requirement and your preference over the audio quality. It's extremely subjective. And of course, when it comes to microphone, I mean, some people will prefer to have nicer visuals and whatnot, right? So among there's some of the choices out there which I think is really fascinating and worth mentioning, which is the HyperX Quadcast. Not that I own it, but I do have a bit of research into it, and it does sound pretty good as well for a USB microphone, and it's very, very fancy, and it comes with an LED like. Yeah, if you have the mic in the frame, I think it definitely does stand out. But microphones are microphones. Do you want it to stand out more than you? So yeah, that leaves up the option to you. With that said, SMLG Review signing off.
Finish him!